this week's episode of the Thrill of Driving podcast. Now, as you can tell, I'm terribly unkempt. Apologies about that. That's what happens to auto journalists when they're up late at night closing issues for a week at a time.
That's what happens to auto journalists when they don't finish their work on time. But that's a different question altogether. We can talk about that in another How to Become an Automotive Journalist podcast.
My point was there are other automotive journalists who are out driving Lamborghinis while we're doing that.
It's a tough life, but somebody has to live it. So the last 2 days, I was in Delhi first, then Chennai. But at Chennai, we were at the racetrack, at the Madras Motor Racetrack, which I think is the best racetrack in the country for a driving enthusiast. Obviously, the BIC is bigger. But the point I want to make is that we drove the Lamborghini Huracan Evo at the MMRT.
So what is the Huracan Evo? How is it different from the Huracan that came before it?
The Evo gets the engine from the Huracan Performante.
Okay.
So more power, more noise, a little wilder. It has a little better aero.
Yeah.
It obviously has a little spruced up exterior.
But it doesn't get the ALA from the...
It does not get the active aerodynamics.
Right.
And the thing is that once you look at the Huracan Performante, especially from the rear, with the wings and everything, the regular Huracan then kind of feels empty. It feels like it's got a spoiler delete kit on it. It feels proper now with that wing at the back.
Right.
And when I was brought up at a time when all rally cars had big wings and those Evos and Subarus with the big wings. So to me, in my mind, a fast car has a big wing at the back. Now, obviously, Ferraris don't have wings because Ferrari, for the longest time, have been talking about, and they've been doing underbody dynamics, they've been doing really intricate aerodynamics on the bodywork. So they don't need a big wing. And they've shown that you don't really need a big wing for the car to suck themselves to the ground.
Gives them that sleek...
But Lamborghinis are wild. The SVJ, look at that wing and God, you have an accident in your trousers. And the same with the Huracan Performante. Now, after you look at the Huracan Performante, you look at the Huracan Evo, and you think that, you need a wing.
But now, you're probably one of the few auto journalists in the country who've driven the Performante and the Evo back to back. So how do they compare?
Yeah, and people have been asking me that, and I can't give you an answer because see, the environments are two completely different things. One was in Kerala on the roads, early morning, so the roads were really nice and smooth, and you could really drive it hard. And the other is the racetrack where you're driving it absolutely hard. Arman was in the lead car, and we'll talk about the lead car in a bit. But Arman was in the lead car, and Dhruv from AutoX and we were together. And because we know how to drive fast cars on the track, so he said just go straight to Corsa mode and just follow me. So I don't even know about Strada and the other modes. So I really can't say honestly. I drove it in full hard on the racetrack. It was brilliant. The Huracan Performante on track was brilliant. But Ashik, who owns the Huracan Performante, and today he's at the MMRT driving the Evo. He asked me, how's the Evo? And I said, boss, you don't have to sell your car. For sure. Because the active aerodynamics obviously makes a lot of difference on the Performante. But that's if you're going out to set a lap time. If you want to do a track day, I think the Evo is, it's enough. And it's got that, it's got improved interiors with that big screen which also shows the vehicle dynamics. So what's happening with the aero, with the rear wheel.
I'm not sure you want to be looking there when you're
going look at it. On my second lap, that's when I realized, oh shit, okay, there's something like this and just press it. But I didn't, you can't really see all that.
It's probably a distraction more than
anything. The question, how is the Huracan Evo to drive? Well, it's phenomenal to drive. And at the MMRT, which is a little tighter track than the BIC.
That's another question I had. Is the Huracan Performante too powerful for a track like the MMRT?
I wouldn't say too powerful. Obviously, it's on the edge and you don't want to go off the track. And plus, it was raining at Chennai. So the track in places was damp. And outside the track, the runoff was all wet. So there you don't want to hit the wet mud once you run off the track. So you really got to keep it on track. It is not too fast for the track, but you have to be careful. You have to be intelligent. You can't be open the throttle everywhere. Two journalists spun also, doing silly things. Like Arman said, it takes a special kind of talent for all those things. The Huracan has got so much grip. Honestly, so much grip that you can really push it. There is really no understeer. But it just, it sucks itself to the ground. Now, I guess that's also aero working.
But the Huracan's also all-wheel drive. How does that change driving a supercar with all-wheel drive versus driving a rear-wheel drive supercar like that?
In the main, an all-wheel drive supercar is safer to drive.
Okay.
Because you got more grip. Because you can get on the throttle earlier. And when you get on the throttle, there's no danger that if you are in ESC Sport or you got ESP completely off, that will spin it around immediately. these cars are very fast, so it will spill if you do something stupid.
Yeah.
But four-wheel drive supercars are safer. It's the same with the R8. When the R8 first came, that was one of the not the first, but one of the more mass supercars with four-wheel drive, sports cars with four-wheel drive, and you could really push it harder than you would normally do with, say, a 911 back in the day, because that had a more frisky tail. If you want to have a blast, that also you can have with the Huracan Performante, because now, and with the Evo, because now with all these modern fast supercars, they've got more of a rear bias, and because it looks cool on videos and when you put a sliding car on Instagram, so they have modes where you can slide the car and also not get into trouble. So the halfway between
and
points.
E63S has a drift mode now, so
True.
Huracan obviously has to get one.
Yeah. But the halfway mode in terms of the stability control, if you keep it in the sport mode, it actually lets you slide around a bit. And what the instructor was saying is that now reflexively, as soon as the car starts sliding, you try to correct. But he said, don't hold back that initial reflex, let it slide a little bit more, and then it will let you have like a 10-degree slide angle without ESP completely cutting in and cutting all the fun. So you can slide around a bit without the fear of spinning the car or damaging the car. So those are also cool things to have.
What was your story about the lead car?
What was your story on the first Lamborghini you drove?
It was a climatic but anticlimactic story at the same time. The first Lamborghini I ever drove was not a sports car; it was an SUV. And I guess that's what happens when you grow up in this generation. I mean, growing up, I always thought my first Lamborghini would be a Murcielago or a Venton. The Venton, they're too rare to even dream of driving one, but a sports car, a supercar, low slung, scissor doors, sit, bum on the floor type of experience. But then the first time I got into the Lamborghini, I had to climb into it.
And so the first Lamborghini that Adish drove was the Urus, and that was the car that Arman was leading us with. Now, Arman's a good driver, right? The track was wet in places, so that actually helps the Urus. But the Urus really was quick around the track, man. You could see Arman pushing it and the car squirming, and Arman really pushing the car to the limit. And I sat in the car with Arman afterwards, after I finished with my laps, and you could feel the car working, which you didn't really feel in the Huracan. But that Urus can really lap the track at an obscene speeds. Of course, it's not a sports car, right? And you could easily keep in pace with Arman. But for what they've done to an SUV, Lamborghini, hats off. Yeah, that Urus is nuts. It's an incredible, insane SUV.
Insane. I know this because I don't know why I agreed to do this, but I got into the boot of the Urus to try and record the exhaust sound more clearly because we couldn't hear it as well in the front. And my colleague at the time said, okay, we'll try launch control. And I was in the boot and he launched the car. And it was very, very wild. It was not fun. That car is fast.
Yeah, so what, 5 years shaved off your life expectancy?
I hope not.
But yeah, that is fast. But so I was telling the other guys yesterday at the drive that how do you make an Urus seem slow?
Oh.
You chase it in a Huracan Evo. The
Huracan,
really, that Huracan. The noise of a V10, a naturally aspirated V10 engine, it's probably on its way out. Everything will be hybridized and electrified and all of that. But you drive an NA V10, you rev it to 8,500 RPM. That cliche of your hair standing on end, it is true. And then after a while, your head starts to hurt because of the noise, your neck starts to hurt because of the G-forces. But there is pleasure in that pain, honestly.
This is what naturally aspirated V10s can do. Electric cars,
You'll make your neck hurt for sure much more because they launch like rockets. But then that emotion, noise is emotion, right? It's just one of the elements of emotion. Let's see what Moshe does with the Taycan.
Yeah, exciting times. What else did you go for? You went to Delhi for some new launches.
So I went for the launch of the kidneys.
Yeah.
So there were two big kidneys, and the two big kidneys opened to reveal four kidneys.
But yeah, the 7 Series and the X7.
Yeah, so the whole internet has been hating on the grill of the X7 as well as the 7 Series. I drove the X7 in America, and America and China are the two big markets for it. Now, obviously, this is being designed for Chinese tastes, and we like to diss Chinese tastes. We should not, but we like to diss that. In America, you drive the X7, you park it against an F-150 or an F-250, and the X7 looks proportionate. It looks well designed. The grill does not look too big. So in the environment that it is built for, it actually works. And that's what, no, a car is built for the environment, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I think it's fine.
In this environment where you've got Maruti Suzuki Altos and quids running about, you're going to get one X7 with the massive grill.
So let me ask you, why would you buy an X7?
I don't know if I would.
If you would, why would you buy it?
Look like king of the road, yeah.
Yeah, you would buy it so that the Maruti 800 gets the F out of the way, right?
Yeah.
And it does it really well.
Yeah.
I think it does it. I think for what it is built for. See, it is going to transport oligarchs, now the Indian equivalent of a plutocrat or an oligarch, right? And it will do that very well. You see the car and you just stand the F back.
No.
You wouldn't want to get in its way, right? And it does its job.
I mean, I was driving the X5 2 weeks ago and the X5 did that. So I can't even imagine what the...
And the X7, it brings to the party luxury, it brings to the party driving dynamics. I would, in fact, to be driven around in an Indian environment, I would actually think it would be better than the 7 Series. Of course, the 7 Series you can stretch out in and all of that, but with the increased ride height, with a better comfort.
What do you think of the new 7 Series?
I don't like the grill of the 7 Series as much. I can tolerate that on the X7.
Yeah. I think it's not the grill as much as the combination of the big grill and small headlights.
Yeah, exactly. The headlamps have become narrower and the grills have become warmer. The nostrils have become wider.
I mean, it's just it's exaggerating that grill to a degree.
Yeah, that's what the 7 Series. I will still take more time to stomach. The X7 I made my peace
I guess
with.
when you're in the back seat of the 7 Series, you don't have to look at the grill and.
yeah, exactly. And then in terms of luxury and the way it drives and BMWs, that's one thing they've always stayed true with. Earlier, BMWs were understated, right? But they've really stayed true to its driving dynamics. And the X7 for an SUV, what it can do. The 7 Series for a luxury car. The last 7 Series, I went for the drive for it, and it was done at a racetrack outside of New York. A luxury car, right? I drove it at the BIC, switched everything off. On the 7 Series, you can switch everything off, and it pulled a huge slide getting onto the main straight. You can do that with the 7 Series, and they wanted to do that. They wanted to experience what a luxury car can do around the racetrack, which is phenomenal. Hats off to BMW. Just maybe tone it down a bit, man.
Okay, now coming to something that that's really close to our hearts. It's the latest issue of Evo.
Yeah. So if you've been following us on social media, you would have seen some wild stuff that we were doing at the Rann of Kutch with the 488 Pista. It was a brilliant time that we had. And the kind of content that we got out of there was unbelievable.
It actually follows in the legacy of stories done by people in the UK. You know, the car magazine in the UK had taken a Ferrari 512 and, if I'm not wrong, to the Sahara. They drove it from the Ferrari factory to Morocco. How Ferrari gave them a car and agreed to do that at the time, I have no idea. And then one of the founding members of Evo.
Yeah, so Harry Metcalf, he took his own Testarossa.
Yeah, and he recreated the original car magazine story.
So, but I have a thing on that, right? So in the UK, you say you're driving to Africa, and everything was Africa. It was not Morocco, it was Africa, and we've gone to the Sahara. And then 3 years ago, I actually drove to Morocco. I drove through Morocco, I drove to the Sahara. And Morocco's roads are 100 times better than anything they will find in India. I did not see a single pothole, I did not see a single speed breaker. So you can really drive a Ferrari, man, in Morocco. It was not such a big deal.
The guy who wrote that the car UK story, apparently his average speed through Morocco was 150 miles an hour.
Yeah, because they're a little militant on speed limits, but that's just between Casablanca and kilometers. Between Casablanca, around there and Marrakesh, they're a little aggressive on speed limits.
Also 20 years ago.
Yeah, but here, once you cross the Atlas Mountains, you head to Mazulga, which is the edge of the Sahara. The roads are brilliant. You can max out a Ferrari. It's not such a big adventure, right? And going and seeing snake charmers in Marrakesh town square.
No, but come on, you're taking a Ferrari, which is analog, which is known to be notorious with its reliability at the time. Some 7,500 kilometers they did there, and that's something. I mean,
think about us. We've taken an Alto 800 to the Himalayas.
Desirable, no?
No, but not to diss it. Those
Yeah.
stories, those are what stories that I read
Yeah.
when I was growing up. And when I read those stories, those are things that made me want to become an automotive journalist, made me want to drive a Ferrari, made me want to do adventures.
Yeah.
And in the absence of getting a hands on Ferraris in India, we took Altos to Ladakh,
Yeah.
right? But we also did adventures. And those were the things that really inspired us. And this sort of is like a recreation or our way of inspiring the next generation that
Yeah.
you can do mad things. And really hats off to Bhupesh, who owns the car, right?
He
When I
agreed.
told him, so it was Atish's story. It was Atish's idea that we should do this. And I said, no way. I said, okay, there's no harm in asking. What is Bhupesh going to say? He's going to say no, right? He did not say no. He said, okay, is it very hot? Is it going to rain? Is it going to be dry? The regular question you would ask about the Rann of Kutch. But that's it. And a month later,
We had the Pista and the
we had
Rann.
the Pista and the Run, and that's the cover story for the August issue of Evo. I think it's one of the best covers that we've done, and we've done not to pat our own backs, but we've done some phenomenal covers, and that cover is
It's
incredible. It's mind blowing. I'll have a poster on the wall very soon.
Yeah. And also in this issue, we've got a comparison between the MG Hector and the Tata Harrier and the Hyundai Creta. You might have seen the video. We'll put a link somewhere in this video which you can click on and check it out. We've also got an electric special. We've driven the Hyundai Kona in India finally. That we've done a video too about. We've got
The Audi e-tron.
the Audi e-tron, which is
So
coming.
that's a
to India
preview
very
that we've got, and we've got a conversation with Matt Rimac,
Yeah.
who's leading the charge for electric supercars.
Yeah.
Porsche has a stake in Rimac. Rimac is making the underpinnings for the Pininfarina, the Batista,
soon. We've also driven the Tesla Model 3.
the Tesla Model 3,
The M3 rivaling
yeah,
Tesla Model 3.
which can give you a neck ache because it accelerates so hard, but in terms of emotion, I'm not sure.
And I think one of the coolest stories we have in this issue for sure is driving the Porsche 917.
Yeah.
So Richard Wheaton drove the Porsche 917 on its 50th anniversary up Goodwood.
And he drove the fully blown 1100 bhp, the Can-Am spec. Google it. Those cars were, I think, the fastest race cars ever, and
they were open top.
Yeah, and then I think the authorities saw that bloody hell, this is too fast.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously fast. 1100 bhp.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And that's what motorsport does, yeah?
Yeah.
It develops
Sure.
technologies that you can then eventually filter down to road cars and make unbelievable road cars.
Right, so that's it for this episode of the Thrill of Driving podcast. Make sure you pick up the magazine. It's going to be on stands this week. From
Monday. Yeah.
From Monday. You can subscribe on our website, gvopublishing.com. And
Also available on Amazon. And before you forget, if you like this video, like, subscribe, share. What else can you do with the video? Comment. Don't forget to comment. And tell us what you think we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And we'll talk to you next week.